I have read 11 books so far this year, so let's talk about some of my thoughts, my ratings, and whether or not I think that you should pick some of these books up as well. The very first book that I finished this year was Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This book was really good. We read it for our in-person book club. I say it's really good. I rated it 4 stars. It was good vibes when I read it. I really enjoyed the reading experience, but I honestly have not thought about it since. It was a pretty standard like fantasy mystery crossover in Stephanie Garber's very traditional, whimsical writing style. If you really like the way that Stephanie Garber writes, you like fantasy, but you don't like your fantasy to be super complicated, you like more of like a magical realism type of feel, I think you would really like Alchemy of Secrets. There's a mystery element, there's definitely some like trust issues going on. I wasn't super surprised by any of the twists. There was like one twist that I didn't specifically guess, but the rest of the things like I pretty much saw coming. So not anything super crazy, not anything life-changing, but I did enjoy it. In retrospect, thinking back on it, it's probably closer to a 3-star for me, just a pretty average read. But like I said, the vibes were good. So when I did read it, I rated it 4 stars. Then I finished Emily Wilde, Map of the Otherlands. This was such a cute, cozy, whimsical read. I really love the Emily Wilde series. I just think it is so sweet and precious. The characters are so amazing. They feel like you know them so personally because you're spending so much time with them. They are such sweet characters. I gave it 4.25 stars. It was a little bit slow for me, but it's cozy fantasy, so it's going to be slow. That wasn't the book's fault. It's just what should be expected in this genre. That's why it didn't fully get a 5-star rating from me. I did find myself getting bored at some places or kind of disengaging in some places because it was a little bit slower. The pacing was just like not quite where I wanted it to be, but that's not the book's fault. That's more so just what my reading experience was. Then I read The Midnight Library by Haig, and I absolutely loved that book. I feel like anyone who enjoys reading should read The Midnight Library. If you like literary fiction, if you like an emotional story, if you like a book that makes you think about life and ponder, you know, the meaning of life in some way, shape, or form, I love a book that's gonna make me think. Those books are the ones that I think about long after I'm done reading them. I think about those characters long after I'm done reading about them. I will say it was a very short book, so you don't get a ton of time to get connected to the characters, but Haig does a really good job of making you really care about the main character in such a short amount of time, which is really hard to do, and I highly commend him on the fact that he like made me care so much about the main character in like a 300-page book. So I did give that one 4.5 stars, and I definitely would recommend it to honestly pretty much anyone. Then I read Dopamine Detox. This is new for me. I have been trying to get a little bit more into nonfiction. This is the only nonfiction I've read in the last 2 months, but I am reading another one and we'll probably finish it this coming month. So Dopamine Detox was a very short read. It was less than 100 pages, and it was all about how in life we are just so overstimulated by our surroundings, by our culture, by social media especially, and kind of just taking a minute to reflect on the areas that you're overstimulated in, how it's affecting your productivity, and what changes you need to make so that you can become more productive in your everyday life, you can get more stuff done, and you can kind of decrease the amount of stimulation in your life so that you can actually accomplish the goals that you really want to do. I really, really enjoyed this book. I don't rate nonfiction, so I didn't put a rating on this one, but I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was really helpful for me in the time and a really good way to start off the year, especially just with a little bit of reflection on how I'm doing, how my brain is doing, how I'm doing on my goals, things like that. Then I read Wilde, Reverence by Rebecca Ross. I really enjoyed this one also. I gave it 4.25 stars. This wasn't my favorite Rebecca Ross book. I definitely prefer the original Divine Rivals duology. The only reason for that being that Wilde Reverence was very slow in the first half. It took a lot to get into it because there were so many characters as well. It was really difficult to actually get connected to a lot of the characters until the second half of the book. Even the main characters didn't exactly feel like main main characters because there was just so much going on in the plot and so many different characters to keep track of. It felt like I was having to do work to get into the book. The first 30 to 40%, I really was just trying to like keep track of things, and it took effort to want to pick the book up. But then in the second half, it very much picked up. The plot got so good. The romance ended up being so good and so satisfying in the end. It's a great fantasy, I would say. If you really wanted more world building out of the original Divine Rivals duology, I think you would really enjoy Wilde Reverence. I also love Rebecca Ross's writing. I pretty much will read anything that she writes because I love her writing style. I love her prose. I love how beautiful her word choice is. I just think she's an incredible writer. And so anything that she writes, for the most part, I'm gonna like. Okay, these next two books are the first two books in a series. So I'm gonna talk about them together, even though I did read a couple of other books in between them. And I'm talking about Beartown and Us Against You. I think I found my favorite literary fiction series, which I haven't read a ton of literary fiction series, to be fair, so that's not like completely fair to say, but I absolutely loved Beartown and Us Against You. Beartown, I gave 5 stars. Us Against You, I gave 4.5 stars. The only issue I had with Us Against You is, again, the pacing. A lot of it felt really slow, and there were times where I was struggling to really pick it up and get engaged. However, every time I did pick it up, I very much enjoyed my time. Sorry, my dog, I don't know if he's in the shot at all, but he's needing some love right now, apparently. Other than just a little bit of a pacing issue in Us Against You, this series was so incredibly good. I was so connected to every single character. In the beginning of Beartown, the first one, there definitely are a lot of characters to keep track of, so it can feel a little bit confusing because you're just trying to remember who everyone is and where they fit in and how they relate. But I think Fredrik Backman does a really good job of just keeping you engaged with all of the relevant characters and kind of breezing past the characters that don't quite matter as much. There's so much emotion written into these books. They were so devastating in so many ways, but also were making me laugh and cry kind of in the same page. Like, it's just so sweet the way Fredrik Backman writes about life and what it means to be human, which is literally my favorite theme in a book. If you have been watching any of my stuff for any amount of time, you probably have picked up the fact that I absolutely love the question, what does it mean to be human? And when a book explores that question, automatically it gets a bump up on the rating for me. I have not started the third book yet. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for it. I think I do need a little bit of a break because it is very heavy. And even the way that it's written can feel like it drones on quite a bit. So if you're not in the mood for that kind of writing, I definitely would say it's not going to be the right thing for you right now. But when you are in the mood for a prose that rambles a little bit, that feels very human, very raw, and a story that honestly just feels very broken but also beautiful at the same time, I would definitely recommend picking up the Beartown trilogy, at least the first 2. Next, I have Winter Garden by Kristin Hannah, and I did rate this 3 stars, and then in thinking about it, I actually think my rating should be more of like a 2-star rating. I really did not enjoy this book. I felt like the whole time I was kind of fighting to get through it. It's one that I'm glad I didn't DNF. I feel like it was worth finishing once I had started investing time into it, but I don't think I would recommend it necessarily, only because the main characters in this book were very difficult for me to read in their point of view. They have a lot of issues. This is a story about a family. There's a lot of like family drama. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of stuff kind of being drudged up from the past and kind of dealing with past traumas together as a family. And all of those themes are usually like enjoyable for me in a book, but in Winter Garden specifically, I was having a really hard time reading about how these characters were handling these situations, especially because, in my opinion, they were being extremely immature and really not seeing eye to eye and making choices that I just strongly disagreed with. Sometimes Kristin Hannah does that on purpose because that's just life sometimes. And I usually don't mind it, except that I don't feel like the characters had to suffer the consequences that would have been more realistic for the choices they were making and the way that they were handling these situations. I really just was having trouble with the characters acting very immature and just making choices that were really destructive for their relationships, and like not really thinking twice about these choices, or if they did think like, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong here, like they didn't do anything about it. And that just really irked me. There was one character in particular that was annoying me the entire book beginning to end, and it just did not get better for me. And so I personally didn't enjoy it for that reason. Moving on, I have Begbauer Steel by Sarah Adams. I think this may be my favorite Sarah Adams book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was so cute. The banter was fantastic. Some other people I've heard talk about it like think the main character is like mean and annoying and like they don't like her. I personally really like her. I relate to her like type A. She is the eldest daughter and I am the eldest daughter, and I feel like we just related in that way. Like the areas where she was slightly bossy and insufferable, I was like, yeah, girl, I see this and I relate to you. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so cute. I thought it was so well done, well written. I love Sarah Adams' writing. I think she writes fantastic banter. Nobody does banter in the same way that Sarah Adams does, especially with it being so clean for the most part. There was one chapter of spice I think, and she puts it at the very beginning of the book and just says, hey, if you want the door closed, skip these chapters. So that's what I did. It worked really well for me. I didn't feel like I was missing anything in the story. So that's great. Shout out to the authors that do that. We love that over here. At least I do. I'm very excited to pick up In Your Dreams, which is the last book in this interconnected standalone series by Sarah Adams. It's kind of bittersweet, honestly. Like I'm really excited to read it, but at the same time, I'm like so sad that it's coming to an end. Two more here. I have Dungeon Crawler Carl, which was definitely out of left field for me. I gave this 4 stars. I listened to the audiobook version with my husband. We went on a road trip last month and both of us really enjoyed it. We were like pretty locked in for a lot of our road trip on wanting to finish this book. It's very fast paced, it's very entertaining, and it's unlike anything I have ever read before. I would say if you're someone that really likes like game style stories, if you are into video games especially, I think you'd really enjoy this book. The humor and the language is pretty crude, so I would say just kind of be wary of that. Honestly, I would just call this book very boy. I feel like that just perfectly describes it. It's just very boy, but I really liked it. I was entertained. I don't know if I'll continue the series. I kind of don't care enough to continue this series, but that might change. I would definitely recommend the audio of it. The voice actor that does it does a really good job of like doing different voices for things. They have sound effects for things. Like it's very engaging to listen to it on audio. So if you're gonna read it, I would definitely recommend doing it that way. The final book that I'm gonna be talking about as far as books that I finished is gonna be The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. I gave this 5 stars. The last time I read this book, I was a child. So reading it as an adult was just such a good experience. And I actually read this book to my little sister while I was house sitting and babysitting for my parents. She is in elementary school and she is just getting into the phase of being able to like understand and comprehend more complex stories and like chapter books and things like that. So she and I were like reading it together kind of before bed, and we were listening to the audiobook in the car when I had to like run her places, and we finished it in like the week that I was watching her, and it was just such a sweet time together. We were like chatting about it all week, and when we were like not reading it, I would be like asking her questions about it to try to like help her with her comprehension and everything. It was just like such a sweet time, such a sweet memory that I'll be able to hold on to of like experiencing reading this book with my little sister. It's just like so precious. All of that aside, the book in and of itself is just amazing. It's really good. It's really well written. The story is so well done. There's so much depth on so many levels that you can dig into as an adult and get a lot out of it, or you can read it as a storybook to your child or a child in your life or as a child and also still be really engaged and really enjoy it and kind of get some little life lessons out of it as well. Okay, last I do want to talk about one book that I actually DNF'd this year. So I picked up this book at the end of last year and was like, I'm gonna kind of read this, and if I'm not vibing with it, then, you know, I could put it down for a while, pick it back up. So I kind of soft DNF'd it, picked it back up a couple times, and just decided that I did not want to continue, didn't want to continue the book, didn't want to continue the series, and that is Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. So I will not be continuing the Boys of Tommen series. I really just don't think that the series is for me, at least not right now. The amount of heaviness in the story, but written and handled in an immature way, was really kind of getting to me. I would say, in the weirdest way possible, it feels like a mix between Magnolia Parks and Beartown, which doesn't make any sense unless you've read all three of those. But basically, like, the trashy, icky drama of Magnolia Parks mixed with like the trauma dumping of Beartown just made for a combination that, although I liked both of those series, the two of them combined, I just feel like is not necessarily for me. Where the differences, I think, lie between something like Beartown, which includes a lot of trauma and things happening to people that should not be happening to people. Beartown has this ray of hope, this undertone of like, everything is falling apart, and here's how we're banding together, and here's how we're making it through, and here's where the streamline of like loving one another is. I feel like where that kind of missed for me was it had all of the trauma and all of the emotion of Beartown without the underlying lesson or like hope or any kind of like through line to go, but this is positive because, or I'm taking this out of it because. Like, I'm all for reading books just for vibes, which I felt like was Magnolia Parks. Like, there are some traumatic things that happen in Magnolia Parks, and there's definitely some emotion in it, but it's way more like for funsies versus like dark and all trauma like Binding 13. So like the entertainment value of Magnolia Parks made it worth the trashy like reality TV vibes, versus like Binding and Keeping 13, I felt like had some of the entertainment value, at least in Binding 13, like it definitely kept my attention, but not the like fun from Magnolia Parks or the like life lesson of Beartown. So it kind of just like, it just missed for me, and that's okay. I know that a lot of people absolutely love that series. If you do, I understand why. I get it. It's just really not for me. And so I did DNF Keeping 13, I think at like 40% or something like that. It was before halfway. I was far enough in that I knew that I didn't want to keep reading it, but not far enough that I was like, okay, I need to finish this book. So that is the end of that. And that is all 11 books that I've read in the last 2 months. It's been a very good reading year so far. I feel like I've really refined kind of my taste and what I want to read. And so I'm picking up a lot more books that I'm really rating very highly because I'm reading according to my taste, and I love that for me. That is it for today's video. Thank you guys for hanging out and chatting about books with me. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books before and if you enjoyed them, and I will see you again next time for another video. Bye!